Now, with the recent release of Hugo, it only means we are getting even closer to the release of version 2.0, but more specifically to the highly anticipated release of Yi Xuan. If not for her design or aesthetics, the fact that Yi Xuan is potentially on par with Miyabi or might just be our next best DPS is likely going to sway a lot of players. Especially since she is going to be a 2.0 character. Just like other games, it does mean we can expect quite a bit, such as new mechanics and abilities, which I guess are somewhat already been revealed, as Yi Xuan will be the first character within a brand new class. So even though it is still quite a bit early, it's likely the case that Yi Xuan is going to be an incredible character that many should prioritize. So if you're perhaps looking to prepare for our potential 2.0 Queen of DPS, I'll be going over the Ascension and skill upgrade materials she would require, team synergies you may want to consider building, viable W engines disk drive sets that Yi Xuan can utilize, and then for those that are still a bit unsure, whether or not you should summon for Yi Xuan. Before we jump into it, as always, would really appreciate it if you could subscribe for more ZenlessZoneZero content and drop a like if you enjoyed the video. Kicking this off with the Ascension and skill upgrade materials you would require for Yi Xuan, I do just want to preface the fact that since Yi Xuan is dropping within version 2.0, which will be alongside a brand new map, enemies and challenges, it does mean you wouldn't be able to prepare as much as previous characters since a lot of her stuff will be locked behind version 2.0. So it is a bit unfortunate, but the only material you can pretty much pre-farm for Yi Xuan will be the ether chips, considering her attribute is essentially a variant of the ether attribute, similar to Miyabi's frost element being a variant of the ice attribute. So aside from the ether chips, hamster cage passes and a usual amount of dennies to max out a character, the Ascension materials, expert challenge materials and weekly boss materials will only be accessible on the release of version 2.0. So really, if you're aiming to max out Yi Xuan as soon as possible when she does release, I would then suggest to save as many ether batteries from now and energy a couple of days before her release. Although the fact that we can farm ether chips at least is pretty great, since those would require the most time and energy than every other material. Now moving on to Yi Xuan's team compositions, as unclear as it might be currently with which compositions Yi Xuan would synergize in due to the brand new class, the fact that Yi Xuan is a DPS character and is dropping alongside other members of her faction within 2.0 still stands. So with that, it's fair to expect for Yi Xuan, Zhu Fufu and Pan Yinhu to synergize together and to possibly be one of Yi Xuan's best compositions. Since Yi Xuan is a DPS character that is part of a brand new class, it does likely mean she exceeds current team building restrictions and is able to synergize with either stun characters or normally sub DPS characters. So that would mean that not only due to the fact that Zhu Fufu is part of the same faction, but since they are likely going to be a universal stun character that can synergize with multiple characters regardless of element, Yi Xuan and Zhu Fufu would then be able to synergize quite well together. Now then, as for Pan Yinhu, the main reason he would likely synergize quite well with Yi Xuan is due to the fact that Caesar exists. To be a bit more specific, both Pan Yinhu and Caesar are physical defenders, and it's quite unlikely that Pan Yinhu is going to provide more universal value than Caesar, which then means his kit will be quite niche and will be able to buff specific characters such as Yi Xuan. So that would more or less be enough to confirm that Pan Yinhu will be a great support character for Yi Xuan's composition. But in addition to that, it has been rumored that Yi Xuan will have a new type of damage mechanic, which I would definitely expect for Pan Yinhu to be able to buff through his kit, just so Yi Xuan's team versatility isn't as restricted on her release. So again, just like Zhu Fufu, not only due to the fact that Pan Yinhu is part of the same faction as Yi Xuan that they would synergize quite well together, but also since Pan Yinhu will have a niche kit able to provide great value to Yi Xuan in specific. Now, of course, there are some alternative options for those that may not be able to pick up both Yi Xuan and Zhu Fufu, alongside perhaps just not wanting to use an A-rank character such as Pan Yinhu as the support. Instead of Zhu Fufu, it's fair to expect for characters such as Trigger, Qingyi, and Pulchra at M6 to be solid alternative stun options, given they can each provide a universal damage buff through their kit to allow Yi Xuan to deal more damage. However, it's worth mentioning with those characters replacing Zhu Fufu, it would require for some adjusting in the third slot to activate their core passives, considering Yi Xuan is neither an attacker or an anomaly character. Now, in addition, Vivian is most likely also going to be a great alternative due to being a sub DPS and can increase corruption damage dealt by allies. That, alongside the fact that Vivian is capable of dealing a significant amount of damage off-field, it would definitely allow her to synergize incredibly well with Yi Xuan. Now, as for a few alternatives for Pan Yinhu, to no surprise, both AstraYao and Caesar will of course be great alternative options due to the amount of insane utility they can provide. Astra of course would edge ahead of Caesar due to being able to heal, but both characters should be amazing as they can provide a massive attack buff as one of the things their stacked kits can provide. Lastly, an extremely free-to-play option being Nicole will likely be a great character to pair with Yi Xuan, considering she can crowd control enemies, increase ether damage dealt from allies by 25%, reduces the defense of enemies, and provides even more value through her mindscapes. So all in all, there are quite a few characters that will be able to synergize with Yi Xuan, but I would definitely bank on the fact that her stronger synergies will consist of characters that do share the same faction, or those that do consist of the same attribute. Now, as for Yi Xuan's viable W engines, as you may expect, there aren't going to be many options since she is the first character of our new class. So with that said, Yi Xuan's signature W engine will be more valuable than any other limited W engine that has released, considering it won't only be the only S-rank W engine of the new class, but will also be one of the few limited options in general as there won't be many A-rank or even B-rank options available. Of course, over time, I do expect for there to be many new W engines that Yi Xuan can utilize, but on release, the only S-rank W engine available will be her signature. Now, with that being the case, I am certain that an A-rank alternative will release alongside Yi Xuan's signature and may release on the same banner. So if you're perhaps not intending to go for Yi Xuan's signature, I would at least suggest for you to drop a couple of multis in order to pick up the A-rank alternative W engine, and just maybe, with a bit of luck, you could possibly snipe Yi Xuan's signature W engine. Now specifically, as for Yi Xuan's signature and the A-rank alternative, it has been mentioned from multiple sources that Yi Xuan will in fact be a HP scaler. So that does mean those specific W engines will be able to increase Yi Xuan's HP, alongside the signature most likely providing additional buffs towards Yi Xuan's crit stats and damage bonus. So with that being said, you could potentially use a few attacker W engines for their crit main stat, but the only A rank and above W engine with a HP main stat is the original Transmorpher, which is a defender type W engine with a 25% HP main stat. So the original transformer for now will be the last resort if you can't pull either of the new W engines dropping in 2.0. Although if the A-rank W engine in 2.0 is provided for free through an event rather than through the gacha, then the original transmorpher can be ignored as everyone will have access to the A-rank alternative. But of course that will only be confirmed on the upcoming 2.0 livestream. Finally, as for the disc drives Yi Xuan will be able to utilize, as mentioned, Yi Xuan is going to scale off HP, and so due to that, it's almost certain there will be a brand new disc drive set tailor-made for her just like a few previous characters. Also, the fact that Yi Xuan is releasing alongside version 2.0, it would only confirm the fact that we can at least expect 1 or 2 brand new disc drive sets. So with that being the case, you shouldn't really worry about the 4-piece set as Yi Xuan's best in slot set will only be available with the release of version 2.0. So then, as for the 2-piece set you can farm in advance, there will be a couple of options between the Chaotic Metal set that provides a 10% ether damage bonus, the Woodpecker Electro set that provides an 8% crit rate bonus, and the Branch Head Blade Song which provides a 16% crit damage bonus. All 2P sets are definitely viable, and so the one you may want to opt for will depend on the substats for your pieces and your Yi Xuan's build. Since if you are lacking in crit rate, then the Woodpecker Electro set will be the best set to go with. Otherwise, the Branch and Blade Song or the Chaotic Metal set will be better, as they would allow Yi Xuan to deal additional damage. So again, it would just be best to opt for the set that will provide the best substats. Now speaking of substats, the stats you would want to prioritize for Yi Xuan's disk drives would be as follows. The main stat for the 4th disk drive will definitely want to be either crit rate or crit damage. The 5th disk drive will want ether damage bonus, but HP percent could be a solid option too, and for the final disk drive, it will definitely have to be HP percent. As for the substats, as you may expect, HP percent will be priority alongside crit rate and crit damage. Then the final stat could be either flat HP or attack percent. So overall, Yi Xuan is going to be quite a unique character with a ton of potential, given she will have a unique element and will be the first character within our brand new class. But also will be the first damage dealer that scales off HP and is at least on par with Miyabi. Of course, she might be a bit more difficult to build than other DPS characters due to her reliance on HP, along with the fact that if her A-rank W engine isn't free through an event, players are going to be forced into summoning for either the A-rank or signature W engine. So it won't exactly be easy like some other DPS characters, but once you have built Yi Xuan to perform optimally, no doubt she will be an incredible character with a very unique playstyle. So as for those that still aren't sure whether they should summon, it does really just come down to the fact whether you do need a DPS character and if you are one of those that like to chase the best characters for the meta. If so, then it would be essential to pull for Yi Xuan, given she has mentioned at least would be the second best DPS in the game or potentially the best from 2.0. So if you were to have both Miyabi and Yi Xuan on 2 different teams, they would certainly be able to clear through all content in the game without much difficulty. However, if you don't really care much about the meta and you do have enough DPS characters already, then of course you don't have to summon for Yi Xuan. Although, I do just want to mention that the difference between Yi Xuan and other DPS characters will be similar to that of Miyabi and other DPS characters. So for the sake of having a bit more comfort in clearing content in general, you couldn't go wrong in picking up Yi Xuan, and if you are still a bit concerned about the difficulty in building her, as mentioned, over time it will certainly become much easier to build Yi Xuan, and even on her release, there will definitely be free-to-play options to use from W engines to team composition so that every player can utilize Yi Xuan. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe for more ZenlessZoneZero content, and if you enjoyed the video, drop a like. Also, drop a comment down below on whether you will be picking up Yi Xuan or will you somehow be skipping. And yeah, hope to catch you guys later.